Well, how are you?
Good.
Well, before we go into the new album, first, what are your thoughts now on the previous one, Get to Heaven?
My thoughts. I feel very proud of it. I think we managed to talk about something before it happened, which was rare. I don't know how many times we're going to get to do that in our lives and kind of get it right.
Meaning?
Well, it was all about the rise, sort of chaos and the rise of evil, really. And I think in some ways that has happened, or at least people feel like that's happened.
How do you feel?
I feel like it's easy to think there's a movement, and I'm not sure there is. I think people enjoy being dismayed and outraged when I don't know how real anything is anymore. I think it's about perception, and I think a lot of fears are imaginary, really.
How come?
Because it's easy to tell each other that there is something to be afraid of. It feels good, feels comfortable. It's like that perpetual war notion, from 1984. If there's an enemy, if there's a reason to blame something on both sides, then it makes it easier to not take responsibility for yourself. So I can say, oh, everything's going to shit because of Brexit, but the same people that wanted it will be saying everything's gone to shit because of you, and vice versa. It feels like there's something really there, when the truth is probably things aren't that shit, and if they are, you could probably all do something about it, but you don't really want to.
But how come people seem to need it more nowadays?
More of what?
More of this, constant blaming something else.
It's a very good question. I think some might say that we don't have a focus anymore because organised religion is uncool or downright not popular. So we don't have that, and we live very, very individualistic lives. We don't have a community anymore. We don't have a society anymore in any way that we used to, not recognisably. Everyone lives in their own bubble, as has been explored a lot now. You just have people that reinforce your little tiny views around you, and you don't have any sense of a wider community. So anything that comes into your perfect bubble, you really don't want it to be there because it ruins your illusions. And I think people feel much more strongly about the other and the enemy, your neighbour who doesn't like the same cheese as you. Suddenly that's a really big deal, when I think people used to accept difference a lot more than they do now, ridiculously.
But is it so? You have, on the one hand, you have the lack of some sort of a cultural bonding, maybe religion did it.
Or nationalism.
Nationalism. But is it also something to do with the upbringing of the last 20, 30, 40 years? Are people maybe getting more spoiled and more...
Yeah, everyone just wants their own... Everyone's out for themselves in a big way. I mean, we've had it before. We've had the 80s before. We've had periods like this, but this seems to be deeper than before. We celebrate millionaires. We celebrate people like Simon Cowell and Alan Sugar and these people who don't have any sense of society, of sharing, essentially. It's all about getting to the top and being the best and sort of fuck everyone else. and we tell each other that that is what we should be aiming for. That's like, I don't know, the entrepreneur, that's kind of the goal, rather than trying to actually make everyone okay. It's about, no, you get to the top, fuck the rest.
But what does need to happen to make people realize that they need each other again, and that it's really about community, sharing, building together? What needs to happen? What has happened in the past that made people feel strongly connected again?
Well, it's all an illusion, that's the thing. The group's bigger than, I think it's a group of humans that's bigger than, I think, about 300 people. I may be wrong. It's sort of scientifically proven that you can't have a relationship of any people, that any groups any bigger than that won't really band together based on the normal things that get people to group together. Like, you can't know that many people. You have to have a myth which more people will subscribe to. You can't build a pyramid unless everyone thinks they're going to heaven. You know what I mean? You have to have a big story. And maybe that's just not anymore. Maybe we don't need to come back to society. Like, it was a kind of an illusion anyway. A country is I mean, what's a country, you know?
No, but the thing is,
it's a shared myth. It's just a big story. And does a leopard care that it's in wherever
true.
the hell they live?
No, but the thing is, no, that's true. It's true. But the thing is, in history, the more proven bonding and community building was in wartime or after wartime.
Mm-hmm.
So people still can do it.
Yeah, but I mean, you can do great things when you have a lot of people believing in the same thing, but you can do terrible things. Maybe small groups is just fine. What's wrong with it?
So maybe then just leave the country.
I don't really like judging humans on that kind of scale. I don't think that there's an ideal. I think people end up doing what they want to do at that time. Who am I to say that you should go back to 1950s frame of mind? I think that was shit in loads of ways. I don't like intolerance, and I don't like mistrust and the bad stuff we're seeing at the moment, but I'm not going to say there was a perfect time and we have to strive to get back to it, or that they had it perfectly right in 1690 and 1720 was terrible. Like, what's that?
No, it's true, but the thing is, you can, let's say, history is not some sort of print in how you can do it now, but you can actually take the best part and analyze history.
You can.
To see where things might end up to, or what was what were the positive developments that led to
absolutely.
some sort of better society for a few years, even maybe.
Yeah. But even then, I would go as far as to say, what better for who? You know, I'm sure Mr. Farage doesn't like 90s society.
That's true.
For his reasons.
But what do you think?
I think it was good. He thinks it was bad. Who wins?
Well, then it's all about 50% plus one.
Well, there you go. It's just the majority, isn't it? And if you disagree with it, then you're screwed. But he disagreed with my utopia, didn't he? So who am I?
What is your utopia then?
Oh God, my utopia. It changes all the time. Sometimes I just wish we weren't around at all. I think we're not particularly, we haven't really learned anything. We're not really doing very well. But then sometimes I think we're capable of great things. I have an ever-shifting idea of utopia, because the very concept, my utopia, is by definition someone else's hell. So your utopia is as big as you. It's in here already. That's the kind of maximum that it should be allowed to be.
You said, in hindsight, looking back on the previous album, you said, well, we had it right.
In some ways, yeah.
Yeah, and what sort of feeling did you get from it by seeing it right? Was it were you afraid by it, shocked by it, or was it?
Surprised? Yeah, everybody was. Everybody was.
No, I mean, but you writing this album and some sort of predicting.
Oh, no. Well, it felt like to me like that's what is probably going to happen. That's why I sang those songs. I put money on Trump winning. I made money, but did it feel good? Not really. Did I feel like, yeah, I totally... Of course I didn't predict everything. I just thought this seems like this might happen, and it felt like the winds were turning that way.
No, but you said felt like the wind's turning that way, and suggesting that you felt it. You felt it. So meaning that you actually can sometimes see what might happen or what might not happen.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't alone. Lots of people thought that.
That's true, but I think you were a minority, because I think more people thought that Clinton would win. Brexit was a no, and
yeah, I think some of it was to do with the amount of time I spend online. I saw a new type of person appearing in forums on Reddit, basically, which I've quit now. There was a new type of person that I was seeing again and again who seemed to have very old-fashioned values, but I could tell that they were young, and that was different. That was actually new. I'd never really seen that before. These 17, 18-year-old boys who were very, very nationalistic and very, very right-wing. And usually in the past I would encounter that and I'd say, oh, you're old, you're outdated, go away, granddad, you know, but I couldn't do it with these guys because they weren't old, and they were saying stuff that I hadn't really thought through myself, and they were very confident, and it wasn't the same thing. I knew it was new, and I saw it more and more and more, and it started to break into the mainstream again and again. You would see memes and stuff appear in the mainstream that began on 4chan, began in like far-right subreddits, and it felt like I was right in the middle of a movement. And whether that was real or not, arguably it wasn't obviously the beginning of what's happened, but I knew that if these people were here in these kind of numbers, and they were young and they were confident, that something was happening. So it didn't feel crazy. When people are shocked and outraged at trolls online and things like that, I feel kind of almost amused, because that was what I was experiencing 10 years ago. That's what the internet was always like. But now that it's mainstream and these views are very, very, very easy to find, and everyone's like, oh my God, what has the internet done to people? Like, absolutely nothing. It's connected some people, sure, and reinforced their views, yes. But that stuff was always there. And who's to say it's not your internet, it's not my internet. These people were there, now they can be seen, you can see them, oh no, that's life.
And what was your feeling when you, just a little bit closer this one, what was your feeling when you were writing and recording this album? What sort of feeling did you have about, because I think you wrote this album, let's say 2014, 2015. Mm-hmm. This album is 2 years later.
Yeah.
Did you have a different feel?
Yeah, I did. I think the main thing that I want to communicate with this record, that I haven't talked too much about because I want it to slowly sort of dawn on people, is that a lot of it is tongue-in-cheek. A lot of it is almost like fake news. When I talk about it's coming on the first track, Night of the Long Knives, the Nazis are here, and this is it, backs against the wall. It's not serious. It's I want to scare you, and then I want to poke a hole in it and say, only joking, or these guys are fucking idiots. These are pathetic little people. They're full of shit.
Yeah, because the Night of the Long Knives is about Hitler dealing with Ernst Röhm, with the SAs. I mean, it was some sort of clash within the Nazi party. Did that actually trigger this song?
No, I actually wrote another song with the same title,
Okay.
and I had the same lyric. Well, it was I mentioned The Night of the Long Knives, but it was much more sad, and it didn't have the energy or anything like that. And the guys didn't think the song was good enough or wasn't right for the record. But I put the lyrics into this other thing. No, I just wanted it to be scary. I wanted it to be all your worst fears. There's a wave coming, and it's right wing, and it's we're all fucked. You know, the predictions have all come true. But then I wanted to, you know, I start the song. How the hell do I start the song? There's a flood, there's a wave, and it's coming in now, something like that. No, sorry, excuse me, my own shit song. They say it's a wave, but it feels like a dribbling mouth. That's what it was. Everyone's saying, oh my God, this wave is coming. To me, it seems like it's pathetic, and it's like a stupid person, basically, in one phrase. It's not a wave, it feels like one because it's new. And it's not new. I say elsewhere on the album, you think it's new, but it's not new. It's much more, I don't know how to put it. The concept is far scarier than the reality, and I don't think you should not worry about it and not act, but I think we've seen it before. It's almost inevitable that we're seeing it. And
why? Because
we've just had a very left-wing president. We've just had the end of Tony Blair's, years, and Tony Blair light, and we've got the terrorism. We've got a financial crash. We've got all the right circumstances to make people turn into right-wing dickheads, and that's like ticking them off a list. Do we need this? Yes, we do. We've got it. Inevitably, here comes a right-wing wave, and we've got it.
Because of history, because we have this knowledge because of history.
Yeah, I think it's basically inevitable that we have what we have, which is why I remember a friend of mine saying it when the Tories won the 2010 election, saying a dark time is coming, and it was just after the crash, and people always turn on each other when money is tight. That's like, I mean, that's basic stuff.